What's up guys, Moonman here, and today I've made it out to Greenwood, Mississippi to the Little Zion MB Church, the supposed real burial place of blues legend Robert Johnson, famous for making a deal with the devil. Now Robert is said to he has 3 graves that are marked as him, but from eyewitness people and the person who buried him, all that, they say this is the real one. So I've traveled all the way out here to Greenwood. Let's talk about Robert and let's go pay our respects and let's see him. Here, this sign, the Memphis, Mississippi Blues Trail, says, a seminal figure in the history of the Delta Blues, Robert Johnson synthesized the music of Delta Blues pioneers such as Son House with outside traditions. He in turn influenced artists such as Muddy Waters and Elmore James. Johnson's compositions, notable for their poetic qualities, include the standards Sweet Home Chicago and Dust My Broom. Johnson's mysterious life and early death continue to fascinate modern fans. He is thought to be buried in this graveyard. And might I add, I'm not sure that the area has changed very much since the time of his death, as it's mostly just farmland. Now, Robert was born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi in 1911. His mother was Julia Major Dodds, and his father was Noah Johnson. And she was not married to Noah Johnson. She was actually married to Charles Dodds, hence the last name. And Robert actually lived with her and Charles, and he did not know at the time of his youth that he was adopted at all. So at the time of that, Charles Dodds was, he had actually had to flee to Memphis. He was actually basically run out of town by some white supremacist landowners that he had some disagreements with. And eventually, Robert and his mother would go rejoin him in Memphis, and this time his Charles Dodds had changed his name to Charles Spencer. So for a short period of time there, Robert would be called Robert Spencer. And at some point, his mother would remarry to a guy named Dusty Willis, and they would move briefly to Arkansas and then briefly to Commerce, Mississippi. At some point around that time is whenever she told Robert that Noah Johnson was his actual father, and Robert changed his name to Robert Johnson. And here we see his grave here, Robert L. Johnson, May 8th, 1911 to August 16th, 1938. Musician and composer, he influenced millions beyond his time. And there's a handwritten thing, and what it says underneath it there is, Jesus of Nazareth, King of Jerusalem, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he will call me from the grave. And it says, that's handwritten by Robert Johnson shortly before his death, and presented by family papers by his sister, Carrie H. Thompson. And you see lots of people have left some stuff for Robert there. There's some cigarettes, some booze. There's a little picture right there of Robert himself. And there is lots of things. Because today is actually August 17th of 2025. So yesterday was 87 years of Robert's passing. And may I add, Robert's time in Memphis helped him fall in love with the blues and fall in love with music. And in 1929, he would marry Virginia Travis. She was 14 at the time, and she actually died in childbirth. And at this time, Robert was already playing music a little bit. And her family kind of saw it as punishment for Robert playing secular music. And Robert was living at the Dockery plantation, Dockery Farms. And he was very poor at guitar. A lot of people, even Son House, even said he was a poor picker. But nonetheless, at Dockery Farms and Plantation, he would hear lots of bluesmen sing and hear their stories and learn from them here and there. And he would even play in between sets that they had. But like I said, he was really not known to be good at all. But Robert would leave the Dockery Plantation for about 6 months' time. And when he returned, he was a master of guitar. And legend has it that Robert Johnson, according to legend, that he nor confirmed nor denied, that he went to a crossroads and he saw the devil. He met the devil himself. He handed the devil the guitar. The devil played a little tune, gave it back to Robert, giving Robert powers to play the blues. He became a guitar virtuoso. He became the master of the Delta Blues. And at what cost? His soul. And that story is widely circulated. It is, some people truly believe it. Some people think it's complete hogwash. But the other theory is, and what many people believe, is that at that time they believe Robert actually went down to try to find his real father, Noah, that he had never met, in Hazelhurst, Mississippi, where I said he was born. I'm going to insert a video right now, because I was there today, this morning, and took a video of the house Robert was supposedly born in. According to the internet, Robert was born right there in this shack in Hazelhurst, Mississippi. But nonetheless, and that he did not find his father, but he did find Ike Zimmerman. Ike Zimmerman, another famous blues artist, and that Ike Zimmerman may have became his teacher, the one to help him master the sound of the blues. And they would say that they would practice in a cemetery. They practiced a lot. Like I said, this was 6 months' time, and Robert, within 6 months, came back to Dockery Plantations, and he was just killing it out there. He was just a guitar virtuoso, one of the best you ever saw, and still remembered today as one of the greatest guitarists of all time. So Robert would father a child, and he would marry again in 1933, but she would also tragically pass away at a very young age. So not too long after, he decided to be, or around that time, he decided to be an itinerant musician, meaning he was a traveling musician who went town to town. He'd play on street corners, he'd play at fairs, at shows. Anybody who would listen, he would play for. And at this point, like I said, he was very, very good. So he caught the attention of lots of people, especially lots of, blues artists that we now know as really famous. During a lot of his travels, he'd even go up to Chicago, go out to Texas, and Robert would also give a lot of false names. He would meet a lot of women, and he'd give a lot of them false names. A lot of people actually remember Robert under different names, different last names especially. But Robert, in 1936, he got to record at the Gunter Hotel in San Antonio, Texas, and famously, room 414. Later on, John Mellencamp would record in that same room as inspiration in homage to Robert Johnson. Robert would record the rest of his catalog the following year in Dallas, Texas. He would die in 1938 of unknown causes, but there's lots of speculations. It was publicly unknown at the time. But Honey Boy Edwards, a famous blues artist that was friends with Robert Johnson and was supposedly there on this night, recalls that Robert was talking to another man's woman at a bar in Greenwood, and that somebody handed Robert a glass of whiskey that was already open, and Honey Boy Edwards pushed it out of Robert's hands and said, "Don't ever drink from something you didn't see personally open." And Robert, offended by this, said, "Don't ever knock whiskey out of my hand again." And he drunk the whiskey that was supposedly, nowadays people believe that Robert was essentially poisoned and died from poisoning that was in the alcohol. Robert would spend a little bit in agony. His condition would worsen after the poisoning, and he would die. And he'd be carried out here to this spot and buried with no marker, nothing like that. And the back says, "When I leave this town, I'm gonna bid you farewell. And when I return again, you'll have a great long story to tell. From 4 until late," by Robert Johnson. This memorial marker is placed at the base of this old pecan tree, as was Robert Johnson himself. Prior to his burial nearby, in accordance with the account of eyewitness Miss Rose Eskridge, as told historian Stephen C. LaVere. That's where I'm getting at here. That there's 3 graves of Robert Johnson, one at a cemetery. It says Robert Johnson. It's got a grave. Who knows who's under there? The other one has a cenotaph denoting that Robert is buried in that cemetery. It's not saying that that is his grave. And this one, the wife of the man who supposedly buried Robert gave this little note here to say that this is the official spot of Robert Johnson, and they eventually were able to erect this here for him for his thousands of fans to come and visit. And I'm very glad to have finally gotten to do it. Some of Robert's best known songs is Crossroad Blues, detailing the story of the Devil's Crossroads. Sweet Home Chicago, I Believe I'll Dust My Broom. That is a blues staple right there. He had been immortalized in songs such as excerpts on the Lemon Song, Led Zeppelin. Eric Clapton, did Crossroad Blues there. He influenced John Mellencamp, pretty much every bluesman after him. He is considered by a lot to be one of the first rock stars of all time. Robert Johnson's legacy goes far and beyond, and he was buried with no marker, in obscurity, died not a rich man, not very well known, until about 30, 40 years later, all these influences that was influenced by him started springing up and saying really how truly amazing this man truly was, and left his mark not only just on the music, but on the world. When I think of Mississippi, I think of blues music, as many of you, and Robert Johnson is the foremost player of Delta blues music. He is one of the most known. He did not record an entire catalog. Robert Johnson died at the age of 27. He is the first artist on the 27 Club. That includes artists like Jim Morrison, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, and more. There's conspiracies behind that as to he died so young because he sold his soul to the devil, or maybe Robert Johnson just died so young by being poisoned. But nonetheless, Robert Johnson is buried right here. He would go on, he'd be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Some of his songs would be too. He's in the Blues Music Hall of Fame. And Robert Johnson, immortalized forever. The TV show Supernatural would feature an episode based around Robert Johnson's famous deal with the devil. They would also feature a mock-up of Robert Johnson in the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Like I said, Robert Johnson at this point in time has been dead over 85 years. He is not forgotten. In fact, his legend has done nothing but grow. And he's right here in Greenwood, Mississippi, surrounded by farmland and this little church. And I appreciate you guys for watching as we come here to pay our respects to Robert Johnson. Whether you know him from the music, whether you know him from the legend, or whether you don't know him at all, I urge you to go listen to Robert Johnson's music. Go listen to the sound of Mississippi. And if you're already listening, like I do, keep on listening. Like, subscribe, and share. Moon Man, he's out. I'm gonna include the back of that one sign at the beginning of the video. If people who want to read it, you can pause it and read that. But it goes over some of the things that we said and clears up some things that I did not talk about, including that he was going to make an appearance at that late in 1938. John Hammond planned to present Johnson as part of the From Spiritual Swing concerts at Carnegie Hall that would have made him an international star, but it did not happen. And we'll go ahead and leave with this note here. You may bury my body down by the highway side. Spoken, baby, I don't care where you bury my body when I'm dead and gone. So my old evil spirit can catch a Greyhound bus and ride. Rest in peace, Robert Johnson.